Hello, this is KYC News. We provide you with the most up-to-date and reliable information for the day. First and foremost, we want to achieve perfect health with a sincere desire. G7 Summit agenda includes a price ceiling on gold and energy. Petkov rejects ITN's suggestion for discussions on a new administration. Due to the issue, Sri Lanka sends 2 ministers to Russia for oil. As one of the basics that the island nation in the Indian Ocean has virtually run out of due to its continuous economic crisis, Sri Lanka is sending 2 ministers to Russia to bargain for fuel. 2 ministers are planned to travel to Russia on Monday, according to Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara, to continue in-person negotiations between Sri Lanka and the Russian government over the direct purchase of petroleum and other relevant matters. On Saturday, he asked residents not to wait in fuel lines, stating that additional shipments will be delayed for banking and logistics issues. He indicated that throughout the coming week, restricted supplies of fuel would be given to certain stations. Public transport, power generators, and industry will be given a priority until the next cargo arrive, he said. Residents have had to wait in line for fuel for hours or even days at a time, occasionally having to cook with charcoal or palm leaves. A high-level U.S. delegation is currently in Sri Lanka looking for ways to assist the island nation in coping with an unprecedented economic crisis and significant shortages of basic goods when Wijesekara made his remarks. Global oil prices have soared since Russia invaded Ukraine in late February. Russia is giving its crude at a significant discount, making it particularly alluring to a number of countries, while Washington and its allies are attempting to curb money flows supporting Moscow's war effort. G7 Summit agenda includes a price ceiling on gold and energy. The G7 leaders met in Bavaria, Germany, to discuss a 7th set of sanctions on Russia. Items on the agenda were gold and a price cap on oil. Russia launched a barrage of missiles across Ukraine as dignitaries gathered, sending a clear message to the G7 leaders that it would not relent in its campaign against Ukraine. At 6 a.m., rockets pounded homes in the Shevchenkivsky district of central Kyiv. Since then, things have gradually returned to normal. According to local sources, at least 1 person was murdered and 5 others were hurt, but there were still others who were trapped in the wreckage. Air raid sirens have grown commonplace in Kyiv, but most locals have been ignoring them as missile attacks have decreased in recent weeks, thus residents were astonished by the incident. The Russians struck Kiev once more. According to a tweet from Andrei Yermak, chief of staff to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, missiles destroyed an apartment building and a kindergarten. Yermak reiterated Kyiv's repeated requests for more arms while urging the West to declare Russia a state supporter of terrorism ASAP. Ukraine urgently requires cutting-edge missile defense systems. Our allies are being told about it. According to Yermak, who was quoted by the Financial Times, weapons save lives. Following difficulties in enacting a compromised sanction package on Russian oil exports as part of the 6th package of penalties, the focus is now on Russia's gold holdings. Approximately $300 million in Central Bank of Russia, CBR, reserves were frozen by the West at the start of the conflict, but Russia also has an additional $136 billion in physical gold reserves, the majority of which is held domestically, as well as about $170 billion in cash in various denominations. Russia's second-largest export after oil is gold. On June 26, U.S. President Joe Biden announced additional gold sanctions that aim to prevent Russia from using this metal by imposing secondary sanctions against any bank or trader that conducts a gold-backed contract with the country. According to the White House, gold will account for over $19 billion, or approximately 5% of world gold exports, in 2020, overtaking energy as the greatest Russian export in recent years. About 90% of Russia's gold exports were purchased by G7 nations. Less than $200 million worth of gold was imported by the U.S. from Russia in 2019, and less than $1 million in 2020 and 2021. On June 28, after a discussion by the G7 leaders, more information regarding the sanctions is anticipated. Experts claim that it is infamously difficult to limit gold transactions. The price that nations pay Russia for oil is another suggestion that has been made in advance of the meeting. Since the war began, Russia has already made over $100 billion from oil exports as prices have risen. Russian oil export prices should be capped in order to control how much money Russia may make, according to the proposal championed by U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. The cost will be the same as the market price, but the difference could be kept in escrow accounts and released once the conflict is over, even if the price paid will be the same as the market price. The Italian Prime Minister, Mario Draghi, was pushing for twin limitations on the price of Russian oil and pipeline gas, and at the opening meeting, he won Emmanuel Macron's support. There is now more than just a hint of optimism that this may succeed, a meeting insider told The Guardian. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is anticipated to demand more weaponry in his video message to the G7. He has already stated that any delay in supplying more and heavier weapons is merely a call for additional strikes against Ukraine. Following a pre-event discussion with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who will replace France as the G7 rotating presidency, Biden arrived in Bavaria with his message of unity. "We must ensure that we are all sticking together." As reported by U.S. media, Biden remarked, "You know, we're going to keep working on the economic issues we confront, but I think we get through all this." The positive message, in Scholz's opinion, is that we all managed to stay unified, which Putin never expected. President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen noted that there are more topics on the agenda for the G7 conference, such as the global climate catastrophe, rising inflation, and fixing broken supply chains. To offset China's influence in the developing world, Biden established a global infrastructure partnership. At the G7 conference the previous year, he had dubbed the initiative Build Back Better World and announced it. The effort intends to gather $600 billion over the following 5 years, with the U.S. providing $200 billion through government and private finance, according to the White House. On June 28, a summit of NATO nations will be held in Madrid. Zelensky will also speak at that gathering. Petkov rejects ITN's suggestion for discussions on a new administration. 2 weeks after leaving the existing coalition and causing the dissolution of government, Slavy Trifonov's party, There Are Such People, ITN, Deputy Head Tosho Jordanov announced the party is prepared to discuss a new ruling coalition with Change Continues. Prime Minister Kirill Petkov, however, rejected the idea, claiming that it would be foolish to make the same error twice. Jordanov stated that the two parties share many of the same interests and goals and may work together once more in an interview for public broadcaster BNR on June 26. Petkov had to renounce his position as the next government's prime minister, according to the party's one requirement. It's not impossible to reach an agreement if Change Continues maintain their composure, if we are in a position to select the least undesirable option, and if there are negotiations with concessions, such as Kirill Petkov not becoming prime minister. Despite the fact that we didn't accomplish anything, we have a ton of mutual aims. We'll have to operate under new guidelines with more details, Jordanov added. A few days prior, Iva Maidova, a member of ITN, stated that the party is ready to form a government if President Rumen Radev grants it the third mandate. On June 22, a vote of no confidence in the Bulgarian government failed. The largest party in parliament, Change Continues, must now be given permission by President Rumen Radev to try to establish a new government. If the party loses, Radev will award a second term to Boyko Borisov's previous ruling Gerb party. Gerb has asserted that it would restore that mandate, nevertheless, without attempting to establish a government. Radev might then choose any of the parliamentary parties still present to serve out the remaining term. Bulgaria will call early general elections if both attempts fail. On June 26, Petkov stated in a different interview with BNR that he would be the party's nominee for prime minister and that the current administration would remain in place. He would not say who will take the position of the four ITN ministers. Radostin Vasilov, one of them, has already left ITN and is likely to continue serving as the Minister of Sports. Furthermore, Petkov declared that his party will not speak with ITN. "For me, it would be absurd to negotiate with them once more at the negotiating table. When you know what Slavy Trifonov is capable of, it can be difficult to trust him," Petkov remarked. He further stated that because of their reputation for corruption, his party will not engage in negotiations with Gerb and the Ethnic Turk Movement for Rights and Freedoms, DPS. Vazrozdain, a far-right pro-Russian politician, is likewise not included. The Bulgarian Socialist Party, BSP, and Democratic Bulgaria, Change Continues. Two existing coalition partners, are open to discussions with the group about forming a new alliance. In addition, the party will make an effort to win over the 6 independent MPs who quit ITN, albeit it still needs 6 more to command a majority. Asen Vasilov, the finance minister, and Petkov, the party's co-leader, have often stated that they will make an effort to recruit additional MPs who are eager to fight corruption and advance Bulgaria. Christo Ivanov, the co-leader of Democratic Bulgaria, said that in the event of new early elections, a coalition between his group and Change Continues would be formed. Given that the two groupings share similar interests and objectives, that is considered as a move that could increase their support.